on behalf of MESCE UAE Alumni. I welcome you all to this education event, Generative AI, the skill set for the new era. So we are all in an AI dominant world. It is fascinating, but at times it is a bit creepy. So a deep understanding of what is happening around is a must. So to help us in that, we have LIND Training Institute. Learn, innovate, network, and develop. So the Institute offers a lot of programs for professionals and the budding talents. And their mission is to empower individuals with cutting edge programs, fostering skill enhancement and personal growth. Today, to educate us with the tips and tricks of generative AI, we have our eminent speaker, Arjun Hari. He's a co-founder and CEO of Wudi, which was established in 2006. Under his expertise, Wudi, which is a data-driven technology platform, has achieved recognition as one of the top 4 Indian startups at an event, Startup Istanbul 2020, among the 160,000 applications worldwide. Moreover, Arjun founded Zoti, a chatbot built for WhatsApp, supporting businesses in 5 countries. Above all, he holds a management degree from IIM Calicut and an engineering degree from NIT Calicut. He is a respected TEDx speaker, technology columnist, and frequent panelist at international tech, research, and business conferences. So without any further delay, the stage is all yours, Mr. Arjun Hari.
Very good evening, everyone. And thank you, Najihat, for the wonderful introduction. I'm really happy that we have almost a packed house at 7 in the evening on a Friday. So that shows your grit to learn something new, and that's really energizing me as a trainer or someone who is really interested in imparting knowledge. Today's session is probably going to be a monologue for most part of it, where you can possibly hold your questions until the end, and we can take questions probably in the last 10 to 15 minutes of the session. But in between that, from now, what we would ideally be having is a session which would essentially take you through the basics of what artificial intelligence in the terms of generative AI is, what are the tools out there, how you're possibly using it right now, and how you would possibly want to use it in the future. Because once you understand how this technology works, you also understand its limitations and its powerfulness as well. So this is how the entire session is going to go, and you might also see some demos and some videos, because we just have a short time span. So I can't just delve deep into everything. So I'll just brush up on the basics of most of it, which might be really helpful for you to really understand and learn, and maybe delve deep into all these generative tools and use it on a daily basis, right? So that's how it's going to be. And we are also planning for a detailed workshop or a one-day workshop for the same at a later point in time, which might be maybe physical or an online plus offline session in the Middle East. Once we understand the interest from over the session, we might possibly be able to plan it better. So in case you would want to learn more, feel free to contact LIND and let them know that you'd be interested in doing that. So before I start, I just want to thank everyone who's shown up for the session today, and a special thanks to MES Alumni Group and LIND, and a special thanks to Fami for making this happen. So I'll just delve into the session and I'll share my screen. In case I'm not audible, or you feel that probably my screen is frozen, or maybe I'm talking about something and my screen is showing something else, please let me know so that I can take necessary action. So this is one of the most important things that everybody today should ask themselves. That is, there are two roads. One that is probably going to take you back to what we can call an ancient era, but in the sense of how the world is progressing, not in the sense of everything being ancient, right? And you take the other route, you go into a completely fascinating world driven by technology, primarily artificial intelligence and everything around it. So this is a question that you need to ask yourself as to where you stand today in terms of your knowledge and how much you use these technologies on a daily basis, either to make your life easier or maybe to make yourself look smarter or to build amazing tools and applications. It could be anything, but you should ask this question to yourself as to how much do you know about these technologies? I want you to ask this question to yourself right now. And once we end the session, and see if there is any change. If you think that there is a lot more out there and you're really naive, then probably that's a good sign where you have got some sort of an insight as to where you stand, and probably that could be a precursor for you to really start learning about it, right? So as a person who has been in this AI space since 2016, where I was building my startup in the skill discovery space called Wudi, so right from that point in time and until now, the kind of changes that has happened in the space is phenomenal, right? So back when in 2018, when or early 2017-18 when GPT-1 was launched. I don't think most of us really knew where this was headed because it was powerful in the sense of what we had back then. But today, when we look back at it, we have come a long way. So from here, the journey is going to be quicker, right? So the one question that I have for all of you is this. I'll just put up poll. Uh, yeah. So can you just answer this poll that's up on your screen right now?
We can only see a chat GPT and a chat GPT logo.
Uh, I think people are already filling it. I can you just
You
check?
need to scroll it down, Zuhair. You need to scroll it down.
Okay, I think we'll just close the poll as of now. So we have a few more questions coming up. So so if you see this, you can see that almost 83% of you use ChatGPT uh, on a on a daily basis, or maybe regularly, which is a good sign, right? So and some of you use Bard. I think most of you would not have even heard of Anthropic because it's not available in most of the countries, even in India. And Bing, yeah, some of you, and Microsoft Copilot, I think six of you use. That's really good. And there are some of them who use other tools, and there are about seven of them in the session who have not used any of them. So I think most of my session is going to revolve around ChatGPT and the other tools. So not sure how much of it would be helpful for you, because if you're a regular user, you might already be using it the right way. But I feel that maybe I could give you some tips and tricks of how to use it in the right manner, the different kinds of prompting techniques that's out there, and how prompting as a technique will itself be irrelevant in the future, right? So this is a good sign, and I really appreciate you guys for using uh, tools like ChatGPT on a regular basis. So getting back to the session, so this, since most of you, even if you don't use it, you would have definitely heard of ChatGPT. So why do you think ChatGPT as a tool has gained so much of importance in the last couple of months or years for that matter. So if you look at it, the primary reason is that back in 2018 or back in 2010 or back in 1990, as we go from this point in time backwards, you can see that a lot has changed in terms of how we communicate as human beings, right? So the primary change is the introduction of smartphones. So once smartphones came in, so all our thoughts, like say for example, if we go to a place, we might probably like couple of years, I don't know how many of you are using Facebook these days. I used to, but now I don't. I have probably moved to Instagram, maybe 3 4 years back, and now I don't use Instagram either. So I'm not on most of the social media platforms, but yes, I'm on LinkedIn because it helps the overall growth of uh, the my organization or the products that I'm working with, and so on and so forth. And I get to know a lot of things that's happening technologically and business wise at scale. But even that has been like lately, you see how LinkedIn has become more of a Facebook than a LinkedIn that's supposed to be, right? So if you see these transitions as to back in time when I was using Facebook, people used to post everything. Like you check in with someone into a movie hall, you go to a restaurant, you check in. So everything that you used to do without a phone or letting other people know, now you've started posting it suddenly. So there is a lot of data. You post pictures, n number of them, and later on you started putting hashtags, saying that okay, hash wedding, hash whatever, hash best friend, and so on and so forth. Like there'll be hundreds of hashtags for everything. But sometimes what the offering that is being given by Facebook or Instagram is that your like the tag will help you kind of come up when somebody searches particular, like say for example, red man, like a red t-shirt or a red Ferrari or a red car. Maybe you would have bought a car and you would have posted the picture of that car and you would have tagged it with a hashtag saying Ferrari, although your car might not be a Ferrari, but you would want to kind of resonate the color with a Ferrari red, right? So you'd have posted hash Ferrari red. So when somebody searches Ferrari or Ferrari red, your car's picture is going to come up. So this is what Instagram or Facebook offers you, saying that you would be visible to more people. But what they are trying to do internally is to understand what is there in that picture, right? So unless and until you tell a system that, okay, see, this is the picture that I'm posting and hash friends. So now the system knows that this is probably how a picture of friends is going to look like. And you might have put hash beach or hash wedding party or hash bachelor party. So the next time when you put in a, a query or a prompt into a generative AI tool, which probably generates images, and say that, okay, I want you to create a picture of 5 friends at a bachelor party that's happening at a beach. Probably the image that is going to get generated would have also learned from that picture that you posted maybe 4 years back on Facebook or Instagram, where you have tagged it as beach party or bachelor party. I'm just telling that there is a chance, there's a probability that it would have learned from it, right? So everything that we have posted and that we have tagged is right now what is being used as data to kind of train and build foundation models and models on top of it, right? So this data is what has made the whole lot of change. So back then we did not have data. Right now we do have data. So if you look at the timeline of when AI came into being, it is in 1950. 1950, you heard it right. So it's about 74 years back when AI came into existence as an idea or an invention, as you can call it, right? But over time is when we had enough data to kind of make it as intelligent, or like make it look like intelligent enough, right? So this is a graph that depicts how intelligence is. So if you can think of maybe an ant, a bird, a chimpanzee, maybe a dumb human, and Einstein, or maybe if you consider yourself as the most intelligent person, you can put yourself there. So if that is the case, that is how it is. AI intelligence was back down here somewhere between the bird and the ant a while ago. Right now, it's probably traveling. It's maybe better than a chimp. Maybe it's slowly getting better than a dumb human. And over time, it might get an intelligence which is far more than what we can even imagine intelligence to be. So that is what you call a general intelligence or a super intelligence phase, right? Where there is a model that can do anything and everything, right? Right now, you see models which are very specific, like it can either generate code, it can either generate answers to specific questions regarding certain specific topics, or it can generate images. And even those are not really good, or maybe as good as what the most skilled person in that particular area would give you as an answer, but still it's better than maybe 99% of what humans can do in that particular area or topic, right? So it is almost reached there. So over time, once we start training, once we start telling ChatGPT, I don't know if you've seen, like whenever ChatGPT gives you an answer, so if you go here and if you look at it, maybe I'll just ask it a question, give me some ideas. So once it gives you an answer, so what it's essentially going to do is uh, it's going to ask you, like, was that answer good? Was that answer bad? So I don't know how many of you really go back and tell these tools as to, okay, this was a bad answer or this was a good response. So what happens there is it's trying to learn as to how accurate or how good the answer was with respect to your prompt. So as you train, as you ask questions, you're also training the model on the go, right? So this is what happens in the free and certain versions of the paid ones, but in certain versions like Teams of the paid version and certain others, you can specify that you should not use this data for training, right? But once you give a response as to, okay, this is a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that means you're voluntarily telling ChatGPT or the underlying company OpenAI to use this piece of information to better their responses, right? So although ChatGPT is something that you're using to help yourself, but in the process, you're also helping to build or better this tool or this foundation model as such, right? So going back, so these are a few things which might be interesting for you. So that's why I'm just telling you as to how these, how you are also actually contributing in a way to better these models. So whenever you feel that an answer or response is not good enough, please feel free to click that thumbs down button, or if it's good enough, that thumbs up button, so that the next person or the next set of individuals, maybe not immediately, but over time, would really benefit from that little thumbs up or thumbs down you give, not just for ChatGPT or for any other tools for that matter. So this is how it's going to be, and over time, it's going to be super intelligent. So that is a phase which everybody says might happen in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, the next 30 years. So we really don't know as to when we're going to reach there, right? So the next question is, how does it work? I'm sure that although most of you use ChatGPT, unless and until you've actually delved into understanding what it is, I don't know, most of you might really know how it works. So is there anyone out there who really knows? Can you please unmute yourself? Mute yourself, sorry. Yeah. If there is someone out there who really knows, or if you want to really share as to how do you think chat GPT or tools like this work, can you just if you can unmute yourself and just give a quick answer, that'll be good. Somebody who can volunteer. It need not be right. It can just be your thought as to how it functions. Anyone?
I can volunteer. I think from what I know,
yeah,
it whatever you input, it goes into what they call a large language model and then spits out one character at a time. Everything it responds it. So how do I say this? So if I say what's my birthday or something, like if I ask it a question, every time it responds, it responds one character at a time, decides what's the probability of the next character that it should give me. based on the previous answer it gave or something like not previous answer, but the previous character it sent me, something like that. But that's all I know. I don't know the innards of how a large language model works.
That's most like it. Like that's the most accurate answer that you can give, and in a nutshell as to how it works. That's a really good understanding of how LLMs work. So thank you for that. So the reason why I asked this question is most people think this is more like what Google search is, or most people think that maybe somebody has asked this question prior and it has a set of answer which is probably stored in a database like a question answer format, just in a very naive manner, and it's probably going and fetching it from there. So that is not how it works. Just like how your friend just explained, so when you input a question, what essentially happens is it's just like how we would answer, right? Say, for example, if I ask you, how was your life at MES? So you would have an answer, but the next time I ask you the same question, your answer might start differently unless until you have by hearted or perfected an answer, which you're going to repeat every now and then. So then it's more like a question answer being picked up from a database, right? So otherwise, what would happen is you are going to generate that answer as I ask you. Generate in the sense you're not creating it, but you're picking bits and pieces from different parts of your memory and using a language which may be Malayalam, which may be Hindi, Tamil, English, whatever suits you, or a mix of them, and then communicating it to you, right? You're just connecting or using that language as a piece to connect these thoughts or memories together and then communicate it to you. That is how our brain functions, right? So if you cut open our brain and if you look at it, there won't be any piece which holds what you've just read here. How does it work? Or there won't be any piece that holds my image as a picture inside your brain, right? So it's going to be held in different neurons, right? Which holds one piece of information or a piece of information in a format that our brain can process and our brain can retrieve whenever we want, right? So that is how it's going to get stored in a similar fashion as to how data is being stored on hard drives and other memory devices electronically, right? So this in a similar format that what it has done is just like how we store information in our brain. Say, for example, if you have gone to the first year of engineering, your first year in engineering is not going to go into a folder inside your brain called first year of engineering, right? It's going to be on it's going to be spread across your brain into different fragments, and whenever you are being asked a question, you retrieve those fragments, whichever you can retrieve, and the rest of it is lost, right? So that is how it exactly happens. So it in a similar fashion. So what essentially happens is, say, for example, if you ask a question, so can you mute yourself, please? Okay, thank you. So this is how it works. Say, for example, if you ask a question, just like what was explained earlier, it is essentially spitting out one token at a time. So it's not essentially a word, it could be a part of a word as well. So say, for example, if there is a word called unprecedented, so it might possibly be two tokens, right? So it need not be just one token, it would be just two tokens. So it's not essentially a word that is being spit out by the large language model. It is essentially a token. A token need not be a word, right? So once you ask a question, say, for example, you ask the LLM, think that LLM is just like Siri or Alexa, which has a character of its own, right? So you ask it, what is your favorite color? So it's answering, my favorite color is red, right? So what it's trying to do is, first it's trying to process that question that you asked it, right? What is your favorite color? Or let's take a different example, which might be more relevant in the case of ChatGPT, which because it does not have a character or a persona per se. So what it's essentially going to do is, if you ask a question, say, for example, you ask it, okay, what is the capital of India, right? So what happens is the large language model does not understand English for that matter. Okay, it doesn't know English the way we know it. So it doesn't know languages the way we know it. It just knows connection between various tokens. That is it. So how did it know about capital in India? If you ask it, like, how is it, where is it retrieving it from? So essentially, just like how we have learned things over time, for us, time is a parameter, right? We can only read one book at a time. Maybe there might be people who can read multiple books, but you can just read one sentence at a time, right? So if you're reading it, you can't have parallel systems of you reading multiple sentences of multiple books at the same time, right? So we are limited by the physical and biological aspects of us as human beings, right? So we have a limitation. So we can only read probably one line or one sentence or whatever that at a time, right? But there is a possibility for the machines to scale vertically and horizontally, where it can possibly read thousands of books, thousands of texts, thousands of data at the same time. So what happens is there is a model, there is a foundation model that's being created using all the text that is available, which they think is ideal. And that could possibly be textbooks, that could be articles out there, that could be your posts, social media items from various platforms, be that Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and all of that. Everything is put into this. Maybe it could be data from Quora, where people would have asked questions and somebody would have answered it. So from that, it can possibly understand how humans expect answers, right? So if somebody has asked a question, somebody has put in an answer, it knows that, okay, once a question is being asked, this is how you answer. And this is probably how you argue, or this is how you probably debate. So if you look at a Twitter thread, possibly it can learn how to argue, how to debate, how to put your points out there, right? So it learns from all these different contexts as to how these words, or what it calls as tokens, is connected between each other. So when you ask a question called what is the capital of India, what it basically does is it takes that data in, it converts each of the words, what is the capital of India, into numbers which it can understand. So all these letters would be converted to numbers which it can understand. And then based on that, so it's essentially going to be something like this. My favorite color is red. So the tokens would look like, my would look like 3666, favorite would look like 4004, and so on and so forth. So based on these tokens, what it's basically going to do is it does the tokenization. Then it tries to create an embedding, which basically is trying to pick out. Embedding is like, you can call attention. I'm talking of all of these together. So what it does is it then picks up all this piece of information. It tries to understand how these tokens are connected with each other, put some attribute meaning to each of this, and pick out, like, attention is basically picking out tokens which it thinks is important. Say, for example, what is the capital of India? In this, maybe what is not important. Capital and India is what is important for it, right? So if you know, if a model knows that it has read a lot of text where capital and India has come together, and whenever there was an occurrence of capital and India, New Delhi popped up. So it knows that New Delhi is the closest token, and New Delhi would have a different number just like this. It won't be New Delhi, right? It doesn't know New Delhi as a place. It just knows that there is a token which is probably 488653 or something like that, which basically represents New Delhi, which is closest to capital and India. So it picks it up from there, and then it starts its sentence, right? So in order to avoid, or in order to create changes or variations in the answers, so they add some noise to it, or they add some variation. So that is why when you ask a question, maybe you ask it again, it gives you a different answer, right? Different answer in the sense of how it constructs the sentence. So the sentence construction might get different each time. So essentially, New Delhi is the answer, and it takes the context of what was asked, and then it answers. New Delhi is the capital of India, right? So this is how it functions. So it doesn't know language as we know it. It is just spitting out one word at a time. So it gets the answer New Delhi. Maybe it will come first, maybe it'll come in the middle. So it depends on how it constructs the answer. So once it gets the nearest token, what it do is it knows this is the question. If a question is asked like this, it also knows how to construct a sentence, which would be another parallel process, right? So then it has to fit this into that parallel process and then give you an answer. So this is what essentially happens when you ask a question. It doesn't know for sure that this is the answer. So once you get to know the fact that it doesn't know for sure that this is the answer, it also gets a little scary to use it, because now you know for sure that it doesn't know things the way we know things, right? It sees world in a different way, where it's trying to identify patterns from a language, that be that English or French or Spanish. Like mostly if you see, most of these large language models are built on languages that have come from Latin, right? So that is because uh, semantically it is easy to understand Latin languages because the complexities are less. But if you look at languages like Finnish, uh, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese and Chinese, a single letter can actually give out or mean what maybe 4 or 5 words in English is should be used to express, right? So it is totally going to be different. So it's going to be very complex to build a model on top of this. That is one thing. And the second thing is you need a lot of digital or electronic data to train and tell what it is, right? So the lack of both of this is what makes large language models in other languages not as superior as what is there in English. I'm not saying that they don't exist. You would have heard news of Kritrim, which is the Ola Bhavish Agarwal's company, which is $1 billion LLM startup from India, which is basically focusing on Indic languages, that is the ones that is based on Devanagari script, like be that Hindi or Sanskrit or Kannada, Tamil, and all of that. So, so all these languages is Indic languages, what they're focusing on, right? So, to train those models and get a good fitting answers out of it, it's very difficult. It's a very complex process, but it's good that we've started it, right? So, this is something that, so most of the things I just wanted to tell you, most of the images, most of the text, whatever is out here, it has been generated using one or the other AI tool. It could be like, if it's an image, it's probably being generated using Midjourney. I've generated it using Midjourney. Otherwise, if it's a table like this, I've cross-checked it, but it has been generated using ChatGPT. So I just want to give you an idea of, like, there are a lot of tools out there, like a lot of LLMs. GPT-4 is just one of them. You have Palm, you have Claude, you have Falcon from the UAE, which is also really good in terms of the answers and the accuracy that it gives. So it has got two versions of 40 billion and 7 billion. 40 billion parameter one is really good. So Falcon is another one that's really upcoming. Claude is from the company called Anthropic. So Anthropic as a company, to use these tools, like you have to be either in the Europe region or you have to be in the US. So it's not available in other regions. So Anthropic is one company that is completely focused on giving you not just the right answer, but also an answer that is aligned. So alignment is a completely new area in terms of AI, where what we want to essentially do is we want to like be that tool, right? So we want to hold the agency for that tool. So we want to be the ones who probably the ones who dictate what are the terms of this particular tool or agent, right? So if you don't have control on top of it, then we really don't know what we are probably putting it out there, right? So alignment techniques or alignment in general means how we can align these AI models to what humans want, right? So that is what is being more focused by Anthropic. So if you look at Anthropic, the answers that it gives, it's more aligned. It never goes out of the bounds. It never gives you offensive answers. It never argues with you. It tries to kind of play safe all the time, because it has something called as a constitutional model, which tries to see if the answers being given are really something that would be useful for a human. And it keeps that agency of the human with the human itself, right? So it just looks into that, and that is how it gives you the answer. So Anthropic is more used in use cases where you use AI for, say, for example, therapies, or like as a bot where somebody is trying to get a mental health assistance and so on and so forth, where you have to be a little compassionate and show some bit of empathy, right? So in such cases, you can see Anthropic being used more. But in all other cases, you can see the other tools, because Anthropic doesn't really do a good job at coding and all the other things, but it's really good at being showing those human values, right? So the next question is, what is a prompt? So there is a lot of thing going out there where people say that. So there are just two more slides, and then I'll get to show a few things about ChatGPT. So what is a prompt? So most of you might know what a prompt is. It's basically this, what you see here, like whatever question, say for example, if I go to ChatGPT, there are these few questions out here, right? So this is what is a prompt. So tell me a fun fact about the Golden State Warriors. So, or design a database schema for an online merchandise store. So this is a prompt. So the importance of a prompt is fading away over time, because they're making models really good, that there are certain models which they're building which kind of filters to understand the context of the prompt and then enriches it, so that even if the prompt is, say for example, say something, maybe it is not structured in a proper manner, and maybe that prompt does not have those usual keywords that makes a ChatGPT like tools give you the right answer, even then it will give you an answer which is good enough, right? Because there would be an enriching process in between. So there are a lot of advancements happening in this space where they want to really reduce the dependency of how good you prompt, and then make this tool available for anyone and everyone, right? So if prompting as a technique is going to be something that's going to be with a few set of people, then there would never be a rampant or a widespread use or use at scale for these tools, right? So when you go to Google search, you never put up a question like how you would put up over here, right? You would make it as short as possible. You would add plus signs and all of that to give a concise query that can possibly give you answers. You never go into asking something that is very detailed as how you would do to ChatGPT, because you know that your prompt is important, right? So we should reach that state where we don't have to be that detailed, but it kind of knows what we're trying to do, and we can easily get what we want from these tools like ChatGPT and Bard, without having to have an expertise in it. So prompting as a technique used to be a great thing, great deal. It still is, but over time this might also die out, right? So that is one part of it. So there are various ways of prompting. So I'll just show you a few of them. So one is called a role prompting, which you might already be doing, where you say that, okay, you take the role of so and so person, and now you have to explain me something, thinking that I am a so and so person, right? So you are assigning a role to the model. You're taking up a role yourself, and you're giving it a context as to what to do, right? So it's based on role based prompting, and then you have something called as a short prompting. That is, it could be a 0-shot prompting, 1-shot prompting, 2-shot prompting, or n-shot prompting. Basically, a 0-shot prompting is where you ask it to give maybe 5 business ideas. Give me 5 business ideas to get rich or get $1 million the next 2 years. So you can give it, maybe you can ask it for give me 5 YouTube business ideas to make $1 million in the next 2 to 3 years. So that is 0-shot prompting, where you're not explicitly telling it how the answer has to be given, like there is no format. But 1-shot prompting would be where you specifically tell it, give it a set of examples, say that I want 5 business ideas from YouTube, or five YouTube business ideas which can make me $1 million in the next 5 years, but the answer has to be like this. And I give a few examples of maybe 5 business ideas from Twitter to make $1 million, something like that, right? So you give a few examples, and then based on this example, it's going to give you an answer, right? 1-shot prompting is that. 2-shot prompting is giving more than one example, right? N-shot prompting is giving as many examples as possible. So what happens is, once you give it an example, it kind of has a context as to how to answer your question, right? Otherwise, what it's going to do is it's going to give you an answer. Probably somebody would have given the same prompt right before you, and you would have seen that on their laptop, it is given an answer which is in the format that you were looking for. but once you give the same prompt, it might give a different answer, right? So it's not necessary that it gives the same answer to everybody, right? Even if you put the same prompt one after the other, it might give you different answers, because as I've told you, it's generating the responses then and there, and it's trying to add some noise so that every answer is a bit different from the other answer. That is, the starting token is different. So say, for example, if I have to start a sentence by, if you ask me what is one-shot prompting, so I say, I can either start saying that there might be n number of ways, but I'm giving an example. I can either start by saying that one-shot prompting is, or I can say that uh, this is uh, this is a prompting technique that is used in LLMs, and then say that what are the different kinds of prompting, and then come to one-shot prompting. So I can prolong the answer as much and then come to the point, or I can just start with what we're looking for and then quickly come to the point, right? So there are n number of ways in which I can structure that particular answer. In a similar fashion, the moment you change the first token, say for example, if somebody asks you what is your name, you can say that my name is Arjun, or you can say that Arjun is what people call me, right? So there may be n number of ways in which you can answer this question. So the first token, if you say Arjun, you can either stop there, or if you want to have a sentence, then you have to say something along those lines, which is grammatically correct, right? So that is going to be different from when you start with my, right? So my name is Arjun. That's going to be different from if you start with Arjun, right? So that is how it's going to be. So I'll just go to ChatGPT and I'll just give you a few. Okay, so somebody has actually talked about it. So somebody has actually mentioned, Bazila Sali has actually mentioned that you can access Claude from Merlin extension. So Merlin is actually a tool that might be of interest to you, which you can possibly try out, where like it basically is an interface where you can connect it. You can access most of the other tools from it, like be that ChatGPT or GPT 3.5, 3.5 Turbo, or Anthropic, and you can connect to most of these LLMs, be that Llama 2 and all of that. Some of them are some of it are hosted by them, some of it are hosted by the service provider. If that's ChatGPT, it's being hosted by OpenAI. So Merlin is something where it is another service provider which you can through which you can access other tools. So what happens when there is a service provider is that you have to pay something extra to them if you're using it extensively, because they also have to survive. So there would be a small premium that they charge on top of what is being charged by the actual service provider. In some cases, they also have deep discounts which they would transfer to the end user, but it will never be lesser than what is for Anthropic, because otherwise people will just use Merlin and never go to Anthropic, right, directly. So that is one case. So, but you can use Merlin. It's MERLIN, Merlin. So you can use it. Would be very useful for businesses to use it, because you can actually put it as a small toggle on your browser where you can click on it and you can ask questions about the website and so on and so forth. It's a very interesting tool. So you should probably check it out. Thank you for that. So I'll just go back. I'll just go to ChatGPT. So I know most of you might be using ChatGPT 3.5. So I'll also show you a few things what GPT-4 and the plugins can also do. So this is what I have as a paid account. So when you go to GPT-4 and in particular the paid account, so there are a lot of features that open up, right? So in GPT 3.5, you would also have a throttle problem. That is when there is a huge influx of queries into ChatGPT servers. So then people who are not paid might not have access to it, saying that our servers are full and you can probably try a bit later. So once you're on the paid version, you essentially don't have that. You can use it all the time. But if you like, there are some of my friends who have actually got throttled out even on their paid versions, because they extensively use it and they use it with other extensions which can kind of run queries continuously using bots. So in such cases, it gets throttled out. But otherwise, in a normal scenario, it doesn't. So that is the good part of the paid version. And then you also have access to a more powerful ChatGPT 4, ChatGPT 3.5 and ChatGPT 4, if you look at the number of parameters, it's almost more than double. So it also means that it is also far more efficient in terms of what the answers are. And it also has something called as a mixed of experts model, which ChatGPT currently uses, where there are about 8 different experts that's out there. And each of it has probably around 200 billion parameters. And when you ask a question, it essentially goes to one of those experts and then or multiple of those experts, and then finally there is an answer that's cumulatively given to you, right? So each of those experts might be good at one particular thing. Say for example, if that is a code related assistance that you're asking, there'd be one expert that could be good at code. I'm just trying to explain it in the simplest possible manner. So that could possibly help you and maybe connect all this together and give you a better answer. But it is said that once the mixture of experts came in, GPT-4 has become a little more stupid, because it's just like, say for example, there are 8 friends, right? So you know coding, I know something else, there's another person who knows something else, and one question comes in. So we break it into different parts and we take it, and each of us finds answers for the respective things, and then we put it together and give you an answer. It's never going to be as good as asking this one question to a person who knows everything, right? Because that answer is definitely going to be way better than the mixture of experts, right? So this is an argument that's there. We really don't know for sure if it works as mixture of experts model or what goes underneath. What are those layers? Because whatever OpenAI tells us is not that open. They have a layer which is always closed, where we really don't know what goes under the hood in most cases. Even their terms and policies were not really updated until a couple of months back, when EU stepped in and told them, okay, you have to really tell us what data you use to kind of train your models back, because that is a part of the EU's GDPR policies, and they really wanted to come up with a new law for AI as such. So that is when things started got a bit heated up, and they had to really come up with different plans. So there is also something called as a Teams plan. So you can see that there is a $20 plus month plan, which I'm currently on, which says it's your current plan, and there is something called as a Teams plan. So here you can see that team data is excluded from training by default. So here you have to go and explicitly say in some cases, and in certain cases you can't even say for example, if you're uploading files, like you don't really know if when you're uploading files in the chat, it's clear that it's not being used, but there is something called as GPT, custom GPTs that you can create there. They've not mentioned as to what happens to this data, right? So here you can create workspaces, you can create custom GPTs. I don't know how many of you have done it. It's really fun doing it. So which is something that I will also show you. So you can also do most of the stuff that is there in a Plus, and there is a extended what do you call throttle. Here you can't, although in ChatGPT 3.5 you can use it, give it a number of questions, but when you go to ChatGPT 4, use GPT-4, you have a limit, a throttle limit beyond which you can ask questions. So you can possibly ask 40 questions in a span of 3 hours, right? So I'll just give you a few examples of what can be done using ChatGPT. So here in GPT, you have something. So I think most of you might have used ChatGPT, but in case you haven't, so I'll just give you 2 examples of how you can possibly use it with something called as what you call role-based prompting. So I'll just give it a small example. I just have an example on my other screen. I'll just paste it over here. So I'm basically saying that you are a teacher and you have to explain. I'll just put it in 3.5 because that is what most of you might be using. So I just say that you are a teacher and you have to explain Newton's third law of physics to a 5-year-old kid. Keep it as simple as possible. Use cartoon or comic characters in your example to interest the child. So I have given it a context saying that what it has to explain. It has to basically explain Newton's third law of motion. I'll just put in physics, and I've given it a context as to who it has to explain it to. Like it's a 5-year-old kid, right? Or I can say that I am a 5-year-old kid, which gives me a role. Either way, it works the same of sorts. And then we have also given a role to ChatGPT, saying that you can say that you are a physics teacher. You can give a very specific role. You can say that you're a science teacher. So you can see how this answer shapes up, right? So you can see that it's saying, okay, sure, imagine two characters. Let's call them Tom and Jerry are having fun race. Tom is a big cat, strong cat, and Jerry is a little speedy mouse. Now let's focus on what happens when Tom pushes Jerry. When Tom pushes Jerry with his paw, he uses force to push Jerry forward. But here is the cool part that Newton's third law tells us. Newton's third law of motion says for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So then it goes around saying what Tom and Jerry is and so on and so forth. So it just goes on explaining the same thing. So, so here, like say for example, for you to form such an example, it might be difficult. Say for example, if your kid is asking you such a question, maybe not a 5-year-old kid, maybe your 10-year-old kid is basically asking you a question, then it might be difficult for you to kind of come up with a story like this which interests the kid, right? You would be able to explain it, but maybe will it interest the kid is a question. So you can use tools like this as what do you call a, like an assistant, like an assistant which can possibly help you to teach things to people, right? So you might have an idea, but this would definitely have a better idea of how to put it, right? You can also ask it, say for example, I am a 10-year-old kid. Tell me how LLM works. Make it as simple as possible. So if you want to learn something like that, you can just ask it, of course. Imagine you have a really smart friend named GPT-3 and you want to teach them about a lot of different topics like animals, math, or even how to write stories, but you don't want to teach them everything yourself because that would take a long time. So you can basically give it the prompt that you want, like basically at the level that you think you are in terms of this particular topic and how you want it to be explained, right? And then you can give the context of what you're looking for. It can possibly put the answer in such a format that would interest you and that would also make you understand, right? So this is how you can shape your prompts by probably giving it a role. You can say that, okay, you are a lawyer and this is the problem that I have. What do you suggest, right? So it always take a sort of a, what do you call, a caution or a disclaimer saying that I'm not a practicing lawyer or I don't have the rights to probably tell you a legal opinion which you can probably present in court. Always take the advice of a practicing lawyer. It always say that, but it'll still give you a good idea as to what are those different points that can really help you in this particular case or the scenario that you've mentioned, right? Because once you mention who this ChatGPT or the particular LLM is, it knows how to answer, right? Say for example, if you just ask a random question and just say that what are the different laws related to this, it might give you a different answer. It might not give you the answer which is probably structured in a format that as to how a lawyer would answer, right? But once you say that you are a lawyer, then it takes up that role and then answers in a particular fashion. So that is what is called role-based prompting. I'll just give you a small example of what zero shot prompting is. So zero shot prompting is something like this, where you simply ask it a question. You don't really do anything. You just ask it a question like this. What is a group of sheep called? So it is zero shot prompting. You're not giving it any context. You're not giving it any examples. You're just asking what is a group of sheep called. So it's basically going to give you an answer based saying that a group of sheep is typically called a flock of sheep and so on and so forth. You are not expecting a particular style or format in which the answer is supposed to be thrown by ChatGPT or the respective LLM. So most of the LLMs work in the same fashion. So you can use it in most of the cases. So say for example, if it's one shot prompting, so you can give an example. So I'll just copy and paste this here. So here, maybe I'll just do it in ChatGPT 4, which might give you more accurate answers. So like I'm saying that following is a conversation with an AI assistant. The assistant is helpful, creative, clever, and very friendly. So the human says, hello, how are you? AI says, I am an AI created by OpenAI. How can I help you today? Human says, should I shop online for my groceries to the supermarket? So ideally, it should answer like this, right? You have specified what is supposed to be the format. You have given it one example, like human AI. So when I said human, it said AI and gave an answer, right? So we have also mentioned what the role is. We have said that, okay, you are an assistant who's helpful, creative, clever, and friendly. So just saying that both options have pros and cons. Shopping online is very convenient and saves time, but going to supermarket allows you to handpick fresh produce, potentially discover new items. Consider schedules, needs, and personal preferences when deciding. Would you like to help weighing the benefits more specifically to your situation? So you can again go on the same pattern and give an answer, and then it'll just keep on going in that particular style. So that is one way of kind of giving it an example of one shot and then getting an answer from it. So two shot prompting or n shot prompting is giving multiple examples and then getting what you want out of it, right? So I'll just give you another example as well. So this is probably two shot prompting where I'm telling you, these are the YouTube ideas for selling products on TikTok, YouTube ideas for why you should try digital banks. Give me YouTube ideas for so what you've done is you've essentially you essentially expect, okay, it didn't really give us, okay, it did, okay. So I not mentioned the number. So here you can see that I wanted in a specific format. I wanted as a header, 10-minute TikTok videos to boost your sales on. So for that, clearly mentioned what is supposed to be the format. So when I asked this question, give me YouTube ideas for how to use LLM to make money. So it used the similar format, right? So making money with AI, beginner's guide to so on and so forth, top ways to earn income from large language models and so on and so forth. It is clearly mentioned as to how it's supposed to like how we expect it to give an answer. Since I did not mention how many ideas, if I've said give me 5 YouTube ideas, it will have just stopped at 5. Since I've not mentioned any, it just gone to 10 different ideas. So this is how we can precisely, you can just give it 1 to 2 examples and then tell it what to do, right? So then there is something called as plugins. So I don't know how many of you have used plugins. So if you go to plugins, you can go to the plugin store. You can see that there are different plugins that's available, right? So if you go to YouTube, most of it would want you to log in. So if you go to, say, for example, YouTube and install this, then you can give a YouTube link and it'll summarize that video for you. So you don't have to really watch that video. You can just install it. You have to just give permissions of your Gmail. And then what it'll do is you can just, I'll just do this here for you. So just ask me for permissions. So once it's done, it should ideally take me to landing page. So here you can see that my Zapier plugin and Ask Video plugin is there. So if I go to YouTube, I'll just go to YouTube. I'll just find some. So I'll just close this. I'll just say summarize. So there is a catch here. So it needs to have captions only, then it's going to work. So I hope that this has captions. So what's essentially going to do is it's going to go to this particular URL, check that video, check if it has captions, and based on the captions, it's okay. There's got some captions here, I guess. So it's got some information from there. So based on that, it's probably going to summarize and give me what it is, right? So It might take some time. Let's see. Let's wait. In between that, I'll just show you another use case where I've already have something called as Zapier. So Zapier is a tool that can connect any tool with any tool. Essentially, say for example, if you have Trello, you have Gmail, you have Google Docs, you have Drive, you have different other things, and most of these tools don't talk to each other. So once you use Zapier, you can connect these tools together. So Zapier can be connected here as well. So say for example, I can say send a mail to arjun@datawudi.com saying that I'm just saying, and just imagine that this is someone else asking him his availability for a meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. IST. So once I say send mail, what it's basically going to do is it has understood that it has to use Zapier, because that is the only plugin out here which can help you do that. So it has said that I have prepared an email to arjun@datawudi.com asking his availability for a meeting tomorrow, but I'm not going to send the mail, but before that you have to review it. So I can just click on this particular thing here to review it. So once I click on review, it'll open up a new window where you can see that it's already created the mail. Arjun, it has put a meeting availability inquiry for tomorrow at 10 a.m. It has given a proper subject, and they say that, dear Arjun, I hope this email finds you well. I'm writing to inquire about your availability for a meeting. Like if you specify like what is the subject, what is the context of the meeting and all of that, it'll mention all of this. So if I run it, what's essentially going to happen is it's going to send a mail, right? So my email is connected. So what it's going to do is it's going to send this mail. Action run, you can close this window. So if I go to my mails right now, you can see that mail over here. Should probably able to see that mail over here. Box. So see, this is my personal email ID. So you can see that mail over here. Dear Arjun, hope this well, so on and so forth. So it has actually sent me that mail. So like I've not mentioned what is supposed to be the signature and so on and so forth. Otherwise, it would have picked it from there. So what it has done is like it can use these plugins. So you can have different kinds of plugins. You can have a Canva plugin, you have an image editor plugin, you have an easy resume plugin where you can upload your resume and ask it to get it better, make it better, and so on and so forth. So if you go here, like if you go to the last part of it, you can see plugin store. If you use Kayak, so you can ask it, say for example, give me an or you can say book me 2 tickets to Malaysia Web 2024 from Kochi. So what's basically going to do is okay, I think Kayak or something else, I guess. So it should ideally use, okay, it should ideally use one of, okay, I should have used Expedia, it would have worked. So there is something called as Expedia. You can, okay, can use only one at a time. So I can just stop this. I can just do the same thing again. What it's going to do is it should ideally use Expedia, because now Expedia is there. You can use, I think there is something wrong. Just go. Okay. Ideally, it should pick up Expedia and give you that. Yeah, ideally it should do this. So there was some error probably. So it just goes like, instead of you going and checking to Google and all of that, it'll just do that things for you. It's essentially that. So that is what is about plugins. So if you go to this here, you can go to plugin store. You can see that there is a plugin for everything. If you want to read, say for example, you have a 10-page PDF and you don't want to really read it and you want to really understand what's inside it, you can just do chat with PDF over here and you can upload that PDF, or you can go to ask your PDF and then they'll give a link to upload the PDF, and then you can just use that link over here and you can ask it. as to what is supposed to be done. Say, for example, you have 5 CVs and you're a recruiter. And if you're okay sharing this CVs on Ask Your PDF, you can upload those 5 PDFs over there. You'll get a doc ID from there. You can put this doc ID here and you can say that I'm looking for a particular person in this particular area, and I want you to tell me if it's good enough or not. So it'll just look through all these PDFs and give you an answer, right? So that is one way of doing things. So you can also use it, like somebody has asked a question, you can also use it for script writing. It's just that you need to really give it a really good prompt for script writing. And there are tools like ChatSonic and so on and so forth, which are really good at writing as a if you want to specifically use it for creative writing. I think there are certain other LLMs which are really good, like ChatSonic, but ChatGPT, GPT-4 is especially good in it. But if you compare it in terms of writing, by giving context and dialogue, like the other ones would be better. So there are something also called as like GPTs. So which are basically like you can also create your own GPTs here. So you can mention, like you can create your own GPT. You can share it with people. Like once you create this GPT, you can share it with people. So what is a GPT? So it's like a personal GPT. You can call it, like you can create, what would you like to make? I can say I want to make a LIND, or I can say MES Alumni GPT. So I can say that I want to make an MES Alumni GPT. So what it's basically going to do is you can give it a task. You can say that what is this Alumni GPT going to do? So, and once it's out there, you can just save it and you can share it with people. So once they open this particular GPT, it will just open just like Chat GPT, but it would just answer specific questions about, it has understood a knowledgeable MES alumni sharing insights about college life and academics. So what do you want to give it? So I say yes. So what it's going to do is it's going to create a GPT for your alumni, where it is essentially going to just answer questions based on MES and your engineering college and your life and so on and so forth, right? You can give it a logo and so on and so forth. This is one way of creating it, or you can just go here and configure. You can give your name, you can give what the description is, you can give the instructions, you can give what is supposed to come over here, you can change this, and you can upload files saying that, okay, these are the alumni terms and conditions document. This is how alumni is supposed to be. You can change this logo as well, and you can say what capabilities that this thing has, and you can then save it. And you can say only I can see it, or you can say that anyone with the link can see it, or you can just publish it so that everyone can see it. So once that happens, what happens is it just shows up on the GPT store over here, where you can see different kinds of GPTs. Say, for example, there could be something like a DALI GPT where it's super described. So once I open that, what happens is it is a super described GPT, right? It is a different GPT altogether. So it is inside Chat GPT, but it's something that is owned by someone else, called best.ai-prompts.art. So what it does is you can upload any image onto it and it'll tell you, it'll best describe you, and it'll try to give you a prompt which can help you create a similar uh, image, right? So I have an image like this. So I'll just open this and I'll just upload this. So what it's going to do is it's trying to find out the best prompt with which it can create a similar image. So you can put in any image that you want. I just put up an image which was there on my downloads folder. You can put up any image that you want. What it's going to do is it's trying to create the same image, and it will give you like the prompt with which you can get a similar image. So if you don't know how to prompt to get a particular image, what you can do is you can go to super describe, you can put that image. So what it's trying to do is it's not very precise, but it has tried to create a similar image with this. And once you go and click on it, click on the I bar here, you can see what is the prompt that can be used to get a similar image on DALI, right? So if you want to create a similar image, you can just copy it. You can come here, you can go to Chat GPT, and you can just paste it here. Like you can just say Chat GPT and DALI. DALI basically is the text to image generation tool. You can just say it, and you might possibly get a similar image, right? So if you don't know how to create an image, this is the best way. You can reverse engineer it, try to use a describe function just like in Midjourney, and then figure out how that image came in, and this just put it back to ChatGPT. ChatGPT initially did not have such functionality, but right now it does, right? So it'll just give you a similar picture, right? So if you just put that prompt over here. So another thing is, like, say for example, if you want to write a piece of code, right? So like write me Python code to read an Excel sheet and separate all names that has so you can write anything. So I'm just giving an example of how easy it is to create like a piece of code that you want. So you like it even tells you what is a like bash command that you need to use to import or install pandas or the different libraries that is required or dependencies that is required to run this Python code. So it'll just give you the exact thing. So once you probably run this, you'll have to just put in that Excel sheet wherever you want, and then in the particular folder path that you want, and then path to your Excel file. You can just replace it, run this code, and just magically work. Sometimes it might have asked for a different dependency, or the dependencies might not work. Then you can just tell it that, okay, this does not work, or this threw a particular error, whatever error came from the console, and just correct it and give it to you. So this is how easy it is, and you can also upload files if you want. Say for example, I already think I have a file here. You can, if you want, you can just, I'll just show that as well. And I think we're running out of time. So this is a employee data that I've downloaded. Like I've just gone to Google. What I did is I just went to Google. I just searched for free data. I just downloaded it from the first site that came up. So I just downloaded from this site. If you want, you can just download it from these sites. There are a lot of the spreadsheet guru, like if you want an Excel data, CSV data, whatever that is, there are a lot of sample data that is there, which you can use for testing purposes, because in some cases, like you can't actually use company data or sensitive data. So you can use such things to kind of test it out. So here I have some data. 1 second. I'll just copy this since it's just paste it here. And what I'll do is I'll just upload this data. I'll not tell the model anything. I'll just upload this data. Explain what is in this Excel. So what it's basically going to do is it's going to analyze this. It's basically going to run a few Python codes to understand what's there in this, and it just give you maybe what is there, like what exactly are the columns and so on and so forth. That's what it primarily does. So it finished analyzing. So it says that it is employee sample data, and it consists of employee ID, a unique identifier for which each employee. So all this information is not there in that particular file. Okay, so I'll just show you what that file looks like. So that file essentially is something like this. So it has EID, full name, job title, department, business unit, gender, and so on and so forth. But it does not have an information as to what these are. Like what it has done, it has gone to this column, it has analyzed this column, and it has, like, from its learning, it has tried to understand what it possibly is. There is no mention that this employee ID in that entire Excel sheet. It just has EID, but it has understood that since it's employee sample data, this could be employee ID, a unique identifier for each employee. And it gives full name, job title, department, business unit. So it's just trying to say the business unit of the company for the employee that is part of. So it's trying to understand what each of this is. And I can even try to maybe say, for example, can you give me a pie chart based on gender? So it should ideally give you a pie chart based on the gender, or like whatever it is. Like you can also analyze, you can try to give, like, is there a correlation between the bonus percentage and ethnicity and so on and so forth, so, or gender and so on and so forth. We'll just try to see if there's a correlation, say for example, things like this. So you can ask, is there a little more complex task relation between gender and bonus percentage or ethnicity and bonus percentage, which means that maybe there is some bias that is happening in the organization and so on and so forth. So if you want whatever you want to analyze, right? So these are just examples as to how easy it is kind of making a task. So it says that bonus by gender percentage, so on and so forth. So you can see that it's slightly higher than what is there for females. So there might possibly be a bias. So these are things. So it is also explained box plot about visualizers and so on. To determine the statistical correlation, we would typically use correlation. It's saying what exactly it is and so on and so forth. So you can use this for all these purposes. So that is one thing. So when you go to this particular place, like you go to settings, you can give data controls. You can say what these data are used for and so on and so forth. In this particular thing, you can say what you want, how the data is being used. But if you are creating your own GPT, like say, for example, here, when we try to create our own GPT, you create your own GPT. So here, if you go to configure, you can see what it can do. You can specify, like once you upload the file, you can specify, say for example, I upload a file, I can specify what is supposed to be done with the file, or is it supposed to be used, and so on and so forth. So that option isn't coming up over here. So additional settings, see, it says use conversation data in your GPT to improve our models. So if you uncheck it, so what happens, it's not going to use whatever is conversations are happening within your GPT for training its own data, that like its own models. So which means that your data is kind of safe, but it doesn't say specifically what happens to this particular file that you uploaded. But if you go to Teams, the other higher option that you have, an enterprise, they clearly mention that they won't be using the files you have uploaded as well. So in this case, probably they are using these files, right? So that is what you have to understand. So going back to where we came, so I think I've almost covered all of this. So I'll just quickly run through this. So this is the question that you need to ask yourself as to what your skills are. So /imagine is how you prompt in Midjourney. Midjourney is another tool similar to ChatGPT. ChatGPT is DALL-E, not ChatGPT is DALL-E, OpenAI is DALL-E, where you can possibly use prompts to kind of create images. All these images have been created using these tools. So if you see this particular image, you can see that there are a lot of flaws with this image, right? So although I've created with Midjourney, what I've mentioned is I want an Arab woman sitting inside an office, and I want it to be as a perfect photograph being taken by like a prize-winning photographer. I mentioned what sort of what is the name of the photographer as well. It's a famous photographer, so that I get an exact, precise way in which the photograph is. But if you look at this, you can see that this lady at the bottom, like she has 3 hands, and there are minute problems with everyone's hands, because fingers, like most of the images that was used to train these models were your headshot images, which do not have hands and fingers. So it is still learning about the whole idea of hands and fingers. So it might take some time, but hopefully it will be there in quite some time. So if you look at all these AI generated images, if you look at the hands and fingers, that is possibly one way you can identify if it's an AI generated image or not. That is one way. Sometimes it might be perfect as well. So so I think I've talked about all these images have been generated using Midjourney. So even this I've shown you how to reverse engineer with Describe. So I'll just show you a few more tools, and I'll just stop with that. So this is something called as Firefly. I'm not adding the video. So this basically is how how people used to kind of use Photoshop to kind of spend a lot of time to make a small change, right? So here, using generative AI, basically this is an advertisement of Firefly by Adobe. You can try it out. They have a free version which is limited number of credits, but you can still try it out. I'll also show what the screen looks like. So there you can try out the various functionalities that is there, and you can see how easy it is to kind of manipulate an image or a video for that matter. This is something called as a generative fill, where you can just expand the frame of any picture. You can say what is supposed to be there. So you can see like how easily they just mention select subject, because this is something that used to take a lot of time otherwise, where someone used to sit and like use a pen to kind of go around the subject and then figure out what that exact borderline is and then pick that like subject out of this particular video or image, right? So here it was so easy, just click select subject. So that is one thing. So I'll just show you some other tools as well, and then we can possibly wrap up. So this is something called as Clip Drop, which is by Stability AI, which is basically the parent company of Midjourney. So here you can see that you can create stunning visuals in seconds, but you can also see that you can also swap people's face with another face. So I think I've opened this up here. So this is an image. So I've just clicked on this and I've just gone here. So in order to save time, I'm here. So I've already logged in. So this is a free part where I like if I have to upload my image, I can also upload my image and then change my face, but I can use this space, I can swap the face. So you can see that this person's face has changed. Right, so you can have multiple faces over here. I can use a lady's face and then I can swap it. So it is the same image being swapped with different people. So if I can upload my image, I can also upload my image over here and then swap faces. So this is how most of these videos and images are being generated these days. Either they generate it as it is or they use swap. You can use swap in Midjourney as well, where you go inside Midjourney and you can mention swap faces. You can create your face and then you can create an attribute, and then you can say swap this in this image, swap the face with this attribute, then it just swaps it. So this is a very dangerous thing for that matter, but these are the things, like it magically swaps it so perfectly. So you can see that the face is something else, but it has kept the chin of the primary face as it is, so that it fits in with the shape of the body and the neck, right? So we're just swapping the face. So it does that beautifully. So there are a lot of other things, like you can see how to replace a background. You can go here and see how to replace a background and remove background. There is another tool called remove.bg, which is free, which I use mostly. So you can just upload your image and you can get your background removed so easily and so perfectly. So it just looks so seemingly easy, like because it has been trained on multiple images from various people where it has been removed. Right. So you can also use this to clean up. Say, for example, you want to remove this pen, this pencil and another, you can just mark it, you just take it out from there, just like how you pick it out from there, right? So uncrop is basically something very similar to generative fill from Firefly, where you can just extend the frame and just fill it out for you, right? And this is something that's very nice, where you can simply doodle something and just create an image out of it, right? So these are different features within Clip Drop. That is one thing. And uh, Playground is something else that you can also use. This is basically from ChatGPT, where you can create uh, tools out of it, where you can just copy this Python code and you can create a ChatGPT kind of a tool which can integrate with your applications and so on and so forth. So you can just go to platform.openai.com. You can create your own stuff, your own GPTs. You can test it out here and then you can publish it as APIs that you can use for your internal purposes, right? And then you have something called Zapier, which I've already mentioned, which you can use to connect different tools, right? I can use Zapier to probably connect my Excel sheet to a chat GPT flow. Say, for example, here what I've mentioned is like whenever so this is just like you can connect anything to anything. Okay, so here what I've done is whenever there is a particular spreadsheet that I've mentioned, whenever there is a new row in that particular spreadsheet, what I wanted to do is, like, this is the name of the spreadsheet. I'm just saying that any column gets changed. I want this to happen, that I want you to go to my ChatGPT account, use that, and then find out what is in this particular column, and then figure out what is the issue, and then I can give my respective action as to what I want to do. I can fill another column with that respective response. Say, for example, this is a customer care response where somebody is inputting some information, then you can just add it, and then you can put it into another column as such. So So you can also integrate with ChatGPT as well if you want to. Like you can integrate with WhatsApp as well if you want to. So that is another thing. So going back to this. So there are tools which you can use to make videos and avatars, which you might already know. Like there is something called Synthesia, which is really good. And I'll just wrap it up with a few examples, maybe another 5 minutes. So the next thing is intent. So I'll give you a real life example of what happened with me a couple of days back. So I was in a WhatsApp group. So people use ChatGPT without really understanding what is the purpose of ChatGPT, right? So this is an exact screenshot of what I took from web.whatsapp.com of my WhatsApp chat. So there was an issue in one of the tools that we were giving. So they just wanted to know, oh, there's this lady who's asking me, okay, right now how to resolve it. Is there any alternative? So there was another person in the same group from the same organization. So this person wanted to somehow kind of participate and ask a question. So this person, what they did is they this she's a lady, she copy pasted the same thing right now, how to resolve the situation in alternatives to it into ChatGPT and asked it to rephrase. So what happened is it came up with something like this: Mr. Arjun, could you proffer an alternative solution to rectify this quandary? So there is no necessity for this question in the first place. Okay, if you wanted to ask the question, that's fine. But you should also understand that when you get a response from ChatGPT, you should not copy paste as it is, because it might come up something like this, and you don't know who's the person on the other end, right? Unlucky for her, I was the person on the other end. So what I did is I put my response into ChatGPT, asked it to make it into Shakespearean language and give it back. So I said, I shall confer with my brethren, and anon shall I return with utmost haste to thee, which he would not have understood. So I said, long story short, I'll check and revert at the earliest. Right. So for which she did not reply to, and she has not been talking in the group since then. But yeah, the other lady responded. So, but what I'm trying to say is sometimes you need to really understand what is the context and then give your response, or like paste your responses if you're using ChatGPT, because sometimes the words that they use makes it so evident that it came from ChatGPT, right? So I'm so sure even she doesn't know what proffer means or quandary means. She's just copy pasted as it is. She may or may not know, but this is not how we usually talk, right? The whole idea of communication should not be lost just because you have ChatGPT. The idea of communication is to communicate what thought you have to the other person, and the other person has to understand, right? So that is the whole idea. So I'll give you another example, and with that we can possibly close. So recently, like during Jan first week, when I was with a group of friends, so one of them had a task. So that person is a researcher and is working for one of the largest companies in the world. Okay, it is in the electromechanical space, one of the largest companies in the world. Okay, and this person is in the 20 to 25 lakh bracket, which means that it's a kind of a senior role, but not a very senior role. So this person recently joined, so they are having a probation period where they're given multiple tasks and they're going through multiple departments. So this person was assigned with a task, maybe during December 2nd week or something, and after that they had a long vacation. So January 1st week is when I was meeting this person. So when we were sitting together around after breakfast at 11:30 or something in the morning, so this person asked me like, so we have this task, and it is to create a Python code, and it is a very generic thing at large. So it is to read a Python code, or a Python code to read a CSV file, identify a pattern, and then pick out items that is right next to the pattern and write it into an Excel sheet. This is a very generic thing. You can just pass on what the pattern is as a parameter, and then you can make it specific for your use case. That's it, right? So this person doesn't know Python. So I was like, isn't it easy to kind of do it in ChatGPT? So the person was like, okay, Arjun, can you just teach me? So I just asked what the use case is and just typed it into my ChatGPT. It's still there. I'm not showing it because there's some information which might, I don't know if it's specific to the organization, but I don't want to kind of trace it back to the organization. So when this person was given the task, they were okay for them to use Microsoft Copilot or ChatGPT to use it, because there is no like specific data from the organization that's being shared, because it's a very generic requirement, right? They just don't want the log files to be put in, because log files is what they want to read. So they don't want that to be uploaded into any such places. But otherwise, they were okay using all these tools. But this person did not know how to use these tools. So we started at 12:15 or something. And then by 1:30, we had a fully functional Python application, which we did not even code one single line. And this person was given 20 business days to do it, which actually just required 1.5 hours if you use. And it went live the same day. We shared it on the same day, and it went to production the next day. So, so people, so even the person who's given the task to this, my friend, did not really know like how easy this task is. Right. But over time, what's going to happen is there are going to be people who are going to do it in a very smart way, that if you are doing it the conventional way, that you might really lose out. So, so that is one thing that you should always know. Like there is always things that your company might tell you, okay, you should not use it, you should not do. That's a different thing altogether. It's a different discussion altogether. But what I'm saying is, if there are things that you can do in a simple manner using such tools, never forget to use it. And the unknown part is creativity is copyright. And if it's a transformative or a derivative thing, there are deep fakes. And even you can use, like if you put up a picture of captcha into ChatGPT, I don't know if you've tried, it'll tell you this is basically a tool to identify called captcha, which is to distinguish humans between robots. And if you have to ask me what this reads 3A6C5 or whatever is there in the captcha. So you understand there are just blurred lines between how systems used to identify robots and now what it has to actually do to identify robots, because robots have become way smarter in ways in which how they can comprehend stuff, right? And also jobs and primarily. So coming to this part, jobs part, which would be very important to you. So previously there used to be a longer cycle for a job. Say for example, if a job came in or a job role came in, maybe in 2000, maybe until 2015 that job role existed. But going forward, the job roles are going to die out pretty soon. Like maybe 2 to 3 years, the job role is going to die out, because there might be some technological intervention which makes half of the job redundant or mundane, and half of the intelligence would go to a tool which might make a decision on your behalf or do an action on your behalf, right? So then you might not require a person who's being paid 10 or 15 lakhs to actually do that job, but instead you might require a person who can be just paid a little lesser than that and do the same job, right? And maybe do it at scale. So you would become irrelevant because your job or your pay might be higher, and you would no more be relevant in that particular spot, and you'll have to find out another spot where you're relevant, right? So these tools, what it's essentially going to do, is essentially going to make our life easier and easier, where it would take out humans from most part of it, and we would have to be more creative in terms of using these tools together and trying to do larger things rather than doing mundane job. Like say for example, a data entry job, it's just a matter of time that completely goes away. Like a customer care job might just go away over time. Maybe there might be instances where there is an escalation which needs to be taken care of, and so on and so forth. So this is just something that as a New York article, you can just go and check. So this is one of the biggest issues of AI. So this is something that's generated by Midjourney, and you can see, you can just go to this article, you can just Google this. We asked AI to create the Joker. It generated a copyrighted image. So it's a New York Times article which came out a couple of days back. So so you can see how similar these images are. Although they're different, they're almost the same. So all these are actual images. Like this is the actual image which is copyrighted by Marvel, but this is the image generated by Midjourney. So then that becomes a question as to like how much of change is required for creation of AI to be called authentic, or for you to hold the copyright for it, right? So these are all questions that you need to ask. And there is something called as AI safety. This is a research paper that I published in August of 2023. You can just find it online. Like you can just search AI safety and Arjun and I am Code, then you will find this particular article where I've talked about various, me and my prof, we have talked about various uh, uh, provisions that can be brought about to make AI more safe, like to reduce hallucinations, to give use more useful answers, to stop going into areas which can possibly cause damage, that is giving unsafe answers as well, right? So this is where we are essentially, where we are at life 3.0. We are probably entering that, where life that designs its hardware and software. That is, we don't have to even exist. We have to just be there. It just design its own hardware, software, and do everything on its own. That is what is life 3.0. Probably we are here where we are in life 2.0, where life is evolving its hardware and designs its software. Like, so you can use a software like AI to kind of ensure how to make your hardware better, right? So that is the phase that we are in. We'll probably enter life 3.0 pretty soon. So that is it from my end. I know I've overshot the time by a bit. So if you have any questions, we can quickly take it. So yeah, somebody's asked a question as to like if there are any tools available that can integrate between WhatsApp and ChatGPT. So if you want WhatsApp APIs, you can do that. Otherwise, you can create your own Python script. You can ask ChatGPT itself to create a Python script that can run on your Chrome, which can use your web.whatsapp.com to go to ChatGPT, figure out the answer, and then come back. Right. So you can just ask ChatGPT itself to create a Chrome extension which runs on Python or JavaScript or whatsoever. What it has to do is it has to use your web.whatsapp.com and then go into respective chats, whichever is marked by you, and then take that context, use your ChatGPT OpenAI key, and then get the response from there. So that's possible. And if you want a WhatsApp API, so we have a tool called Zoti, which essentially can connect. So this is an example of Zoti. So if you go to Zoti, it's basically a tool. So I'll just go to the main thing. So which makes it easy for you to kind of create your own connections. So I'll just try. I'll just show one example where it is connected to ChatGPT, so it can give you an idea. So say for example in HR, so there is a policy query example that we have given where we have copy pasted a policy. So if you go to policy query, you can basically ask questions based on your leave policy. So say for example, I say I have 23 leaves lapsing this year. Can I take that all together? So I'll just look into this and say, no, you can only take 5 casual leaves at max together. Also, you should get prior approvals from your manager if you're planning to take more than 2 casual leaves, and so on and so forth. So it's just like, so it has a console where you can simply, like this works only with what do you call a WhatsApp API, cloud API. So you can simply like go to any step. You can say that if you want ChatGPT, you can just click on ChatGPT and give your context over here. You have to just copy paste your API key, and then you can just mention your context here. It'll just take that response, get the answer from there, and you can just get it in the next response. So you can do that. So that is one thing. That these are two ways. If it's API, you can do it with tools like this. There are other tools like Wudi, Zoco, and all of that. This is a tool that which I am a founder of. So that is why I'm promoting this. So which works only with WhatsApp API, not with normal WhatsApp numbers. If you want normal WhatsApp numbers to work, then for free, then you can better ask ChatGPT itself to create a small plugin for you. Thank you everybody for those lovely words. So there is one question, I guess. What are those various job roles in AI industry, both tech? So somebody has asked, what are the various job roles in AI industry, both tech and non-tech? So the basic thing is, say for example, in AI, so right now, if you look at most of the AI companies who claim to be AI, so they don't, like, even we don't actually go into the fundamentals of AI, right? So we are not creating foundation models and so on and so forth. But when we used to work with businesses, we used to create models out of their data, which they can possibly use to understand if, say, for example, a customer is going to leave their system, or how good is this particular credit score of a particular customer, and so on and so forth, based on their data. Like there's a small model being built, but it's not a large language model, right? So in India, if you see, like the foundation work is the work on the foundation model is very minimal right now, with Kritrim and all the other money being pumped into large language models. Even in India, there is a lot of opportunities out there. So I think if you were to ask me where should I get into in AI, I would always say get into the core of developing these models, right? So then the entire spectrum is open for you. But once you enter into prompt engineering or something of that sort, then your area is very limited. So you have to understand that you have to do it in the like if you're entering into niche, you have to be an expert in that. Otherwise, if you're entering into the core of what it does, then you can like later venture into anything. But the other way might not be that easy, right? So if you're venturing into something, say for example, AI alignment is a huge area. So if you read that like research paper that I've written, you will know that that itself is larger than what building these models are, right? So AI alignment technique, by like all these companies have a huge team that looks into AI alignment, because eventually that is what we want, right? So we don't want these, since if you look at Meta, uh, Facebook, so they have come up with a model called Llama, right? So Llama and Llama 2, these are open source models. So once an open source model is out there, then there is no looking back, right? So if there are bad actors, people who want to cause harm using these models, maybe scamsters, spamsters, maybe people who want to like create terror or create rampant misinformation, and so on and so forth, like they can use these models uh, to kind of build on top of it, because these, like, only you need a server to run it, right? These are all open source. So it is also essential that whenever there is an open source model, which is a foundation model, they should also have something called as a guardrail, which ensures that this model has some sort of a mechanism where this model has a frame through which it can only give you answers, or it filters out answers which are not coming in the frame which makes it useful for human beings, right? So I think that is very important. So alignment is one big area where you can work. Even prompt engineers essentially don't do what we see where we give prompts. They essentially do the part of ensuring that prompting can be as easy as possible, so that from each prompt context can be understood well. So all those areas are where I would recommend you to probably get in, because those areas will keep developing, but the other areas might die out over time. So if there is someone telling you there is a good job that has come up recently, maybe don't fall for it, because there is a high chance that such jobs will come and will die out. Because if there is a job that is very highly paid, if you look at any industry for that matter, what people in the industry would try to do is, can we automate a part of it so that we don't have to pay them as much? So they'll try to ensure that if that's a huge enough opportunity, if, say, for example, you need to spend $1 billion for prompt engineers, so that's a $1 billion industry, right? So there is an opportunity out there where someone can come and say that, okay, I want to capture 250 million of that by coming up with a tool which can expand its scale, and maybe I can replace all these entire people out there. So then that becomes a huge opportunity where someone would want to invest in. So that is when tools and open source comes up, right? So that is something that you have to take care of. So if I want to make a chart based on an Excel sheet data, if I need to generate this every week, so what you can do is you can create your own custom commands here. So like you can create your own GPT here, and you can save it as something for yourself. So you can say that this is my Excel GPT, and you can say that it's only for me. So whenever you upload it, you don't have to tell it what to do, because instructions are already there. So you can add instructions to it. Say, for example, day after tomorrow, you feel that, okay, I just don't want to create a chart. I want to create 3 charts, and all these are going to be 3 different use cases, but I don't want to create it every time. So what you can say that you can also give like instruction conversation starters. You can give 2-3 conversation starters which will come up over here, which, so that you don't have to even type it, right? So you can create your own GPTs, and then You can give custom commands over here, and you can, in that custom commands, you can specify that you have to look at whatever data is here or whatever data is being uploaded, whatever commands are here, and then based on that you have to act. So that becomes easy because it would be your own GPT. If tomorrow if you want to share it with someone also, you can just do that. You can just click on save and you can share it with anyone with the link, or everyone for that matter, which gets published there. So that becomes an easy job for you, because in the chat you might lose context over time. For our alumni, can we add the plugins as a member to the group and answer? So if you want to have more capabilities, so there is something called, one second. So if you go to platform, so you have something, you can see that you can also create assistants here. So assistants might be something that might be better for you in such cases where you want to use, like, you can use assistants API. So it might involve a bit of technicality, but here you can do whatever you want. You can create your own assistant. You can have an API. Maybe you can use WhatsApp or something as a front end, and then you can write whatever you want over here. So from that thread, you can put in any command. You can call any APIs that you want. Here, there are some limitations. You can still call APIs, but there are some limitations on what you can do. So, but yeah, it is possible to do it, but there are limitations on what you can do. You can always create an action here. So there is something called as an action, where even this is a little complex, but you can do it. Like if to answer your question, yeah, you can create actions here, where you can go to Zapier and you can create an action, and then you can do whatever you want. Say, for example, you want to query your, what do you call, your MES alumni database and fetch some data from there, you can do that. Or you want to cross check or verify that if this person is the person they claim to be, and you can ask for a pass key or something like that, and then cross check it and then come back and say that, okay, you have been authenticated, and then go to the further steps. Stuff like that, you can do it over here. It's just that you have to connect it with Zapier. As of now, Zapier is what works beautifully, and Zapier is not free. So you only get 100 tasks a month. So that is going to cost you a lot of money. So if you want to keep the cost low, then either don't include APIs within this particular GPT, or what you can do is you can go to Assistants API and create an entirely new tool for yourself, where you can use the power of ChatGPT, but at the same time, you won't have to really spend a lot on other connectors and stuff, right? You'll have to just spend on GPT as such. Shamir, if you create a custom GPT, you have asked that question. Where do you see this? Okay, so if to answer that question, I have absolutely no clue. I consider myself as a person, like, when it comes to this particular space, I just know point not 1% of what's happening out there. So even I did not imagine. I did use GPT-1 back 4 years back, but I did not know that it's going to be so capable a couple of years down the line. At the pace at which it's growing, by I think in the next 4 to 5 years, you can see that a lot of things that we kind of manually do right now will be automated. A lot of it, right? And we would be in kind of an echo chamber. So right now, if you go to LinkedIn, you would have already noticed people who used to not post anything right now is a huge post that they put up, right? Most of it are generated by AI. So what happens is everybody putting up generative AI content, and if a model has to learn from these generative AI content, new content that's out there. So what happens is we would be in kind of an echo chamber where all the content is being generated by generative AI. So this is one fear that I have, that over time we would be in an echo chamber where everything would be like, we would be in a loop that is set off by generative AI. So that is one concern that I have. And in terms of jobs, there is going to be a lot of chaos, maybe not in a country like India for that matter, in developing countries, you still have, and underdeveloped countries, you still have scope or room, because there is a huge strata of the society who don't have that capacity or capability to kind of use these technologies, or there is a lot of jobs out there which are manual in form, and there is a lot of huge crowd out there who don't know to use these technologies, or who are not willing to pay that extra for these technologies because they don't probably have that money to even meet their ends, right? So those countries are probably going to take some time to reach that phase. But if you look at developed countries, most of the automation is going to impact these countries, and when these impact these countries, the people from our country who are working there will also get impacted. So although we won't directly have a huge impact in our country, although a lot of things would change, but I don't see the job space changing as much as for the larger section of the society, because the larger section of the society is still uh, uh, like under the belt, where we don't really know what jobs they do, and we don't really have a lot of data about them. But maybe the engineering jobs and all of that, these jobs are going to be a little tricky over time. So recently, when we were hiring someone, so we did not even look for if they knew a particular language, although we wanted someone from a particular language, because we knew that if they have logic, they can use all these tools to kind of create stuff in no time, right? So I think all these degrees might slowly become irrelevant, and your thought process and your critical thinking and all those would is what is going to like determine who you are and how you progress in your career. So if your question is with respect to career, but if it's with respect to generally in like how our life is going to change, I think there is like every touch point is going to have some sort of AI in it. And it's just a matter of time to see how it shapes up, because it can also lead to a lot of chaos, because there's a lot of data out there, private and personal data, which might create a lot of security issues as well.
Arjun?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a wonderful session. Maybe you can make a closing remark and
Uh, so yeah, I think there's one more question. So
great.
so I think I've answered that question. So we need to get our kids equipped. So I think you have to just equip them with critical thinking. So rote learning or just memorizing what Newton's third law of motion is really not going to help. So I think that is what the whole point is. So you have to just equip them with critical thinking and questioning. So so I think that is the only thing that you require in the coming years, because the rest of everything, like, you have it in your fingertip, like be that physics, biology, like coding, whatever that is, you have one chat GPT that can do everything for you. So the only thing is, say for example, if you have a problem statement, you have to know what to query, right? So what to query is still with you. So for that, you have to break down the problem, understand how it is, how we can solve it, and then come up with like molecular or atomic solution points, which you can then like frame to tools like ChatGPT, and then combine answers and then kind of came up with solution. I'm not saying that ChatGPT or tools like this is going to solve all the problems, but I'm telling you that like most of it, the knowledge base is out there. You don't have to really memorize anything. So thank you so much for this, and thank you so much for a lot of questions that you've asked. And somebody has told that I look like a robot. Maybe I really don't know. So thank you so much for this, and thank you so much for this opportunity. But in case if you would love to really like, I know that today I've not even delved into any topic in detail, but in case you would love to do that, we would have a session coming up by LIND. So just let Famib know, and we can possibly arrange one physical session in UAE if you would love to.
Thank you. Thank you, Arjun, for a wonderful session. We, MES UAE alumni, would not like to leave you. We would be going on with our questions. And as Arjun said, if you would like to spend a day of workshop with Arjun, we have a design thinking workshop for no-code AI solutions coming up in the month of March. If you are interested, you can actually register. So let's stop my share. Thank you, Arjun, for a wonderful session on behalf of MES UAE Alumni Career Cell UAE. This is an initiative from MES Engineering College Kuttipuram, UAE alumni members, and as part of the career program, which we think that your session today created a lot of value for the alumni, and you have been very, very generous with your time. And the explanations which we had for each of our questions have been so interesting, and I'm sure that all of our colleagues would be interested to pursue more in the field of AI. So once again, on behalf of MES Engineering College UAE alumni, career cell member, I would like to thank you, and with the special thanks to the members who worked behind the scene, especially Najihat, who's a career cell head, as well as Shamsir, the IT pro behind a lot of things which you have seen today, which has happened in this session. Yeah, and with reference to LIND, thank you for being a LIND fellow as part of the training, and we would be conducting more of sessions. LIND training is a specialized training institute where we have a lot of sessions or technical training sessions on subjects which might be of real value to both not just the engineer community or the professionals, but also starting the children. There will be also a children's program coming up very soon, even in the field of AI, as well as even in public speaking sessions will be live soon. Please keep updated, and we shall be in touch with you. If you are interested to be part of workshop conducted by Arjun in the month of March, please do let us know so that you can get connected with our career cell to get connected to LIND, so that we could arrange the session accordingly, maybe exclusively for MES UA alumni, so that you get all the time to ask questions to Arjun. Thank you, Arjun, one more time, and thank you, MES UAE
Thank you so
Engineering
much.
Alumni members, for being present in the session and enriching the session with a lot of vibrant questions. Thanks, one and all. Let's keep up the sessions. Let's keep up our energy. As a community, we shall thrive. MES UAE Alumni. Hats off. Thank you.